On today's show, we go slightly mad and take a look at Shift 2 Unleashed. Hey guys, I'm Jessica Lopez, and this is episode 99 of Inside Sim Racing. You know, since 1994, Need for Speed has brought players arcade checkpoint-style racing games with titles such as Hot Pursuit, Porsche Unleashed, and Need for Speed Underground. In 2009, they brought us Shift 1, which was their first closed-circuit racing title. The sequel to that game is Shift 2 Unleashed, which claims to be more simulation-focused. Here it is. The guys are going to tell us whether this holds true, and they're going to be previewing or taking a first look at Shift 2 Unleashed by Slightly Mad Studios and EA. We're going to be doing most of our testing on the PC, but the title is available on the Xbox 360 and the PS3 as well. The title offers an impressive list of over 130 cars with makes from Lamborghini, Maserati, and Pagani to name a few. There are over 50 real-world tracks such as Bathurst and Suzuka, and some fictional tracks like downtown London and Shanghai. Players can purchase vehicles, update their cars in the garage, or participate in series races that increase in difficulty. There's also multiplayer with up to 12 racers at a time, and the game offers FIA GT1 World Championship as well as the GT3 European Championship. Before we give you guys too many details, we're going to start things off today with top sim cars of all time. We have one car to put on the list, and it's from Shift 2 Unleashed. Let's see if it even made the list. So here you have it, top simulated cars of all time, sponsored by Tamiya.
So here we are for Top Sim Cars, and I've got a couple of firsts today. Number one, Tom Hackey.
Hey.
Welcome to Top Sim Cars.
Thanks a lot.
Pretty big deal.
Yeah, big deal. First one. Awesome.
And it's our first car from Shift 2. So we went ahead and picked our very favorite from the game, and what do we have today?
We have the Maytech or Mawtech GT, the Ford GT, GT1 class.
We picked the Ford.
Yes.
People accuse us of being such Chevy lovers.
I know.
Anyway, this is absolutely one of my all-time favorite race cars.
Yeah.
You're looking at pictures of the real deal. I mean, it's an amazing car.
It's the GT is one of the all-time classics in terms of looks and shape and huge at Le Mans back in its day.
And brute force, yeah, and now in today's day
Exactly,
as well.
exactly.
So one of those retro current cars.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of power? Well, we don't know exact power. What kind of speeds are we talking about?
Well, top speed of 198 miles an hour. It'll accelerate 0 to 100 in 2.94 seconds.
Which is
That's
really, really sick.
That's silly, yeah. And it'll break from 100 down to 0 again in 2.39 seconds. So 0 to 100 to 0 in just over 4 seconds. It's an awesome car, and it's stiff, and it's grippy, and it's great.
Now, it comes at great expense in the game, though.
Yeah, absolutely. It's $620,000 in the game, which it takes a while to get.
It took me to level 14-ish to be able to
Yeah.
afford it, or if you're on the PS3,
You can buy it, and probably Xbox Live too.
which is kind of interesting. So there's other ways of obtaining the car other than leveling up.
Definitely.
Anyway, let me get to some scores on the car. We gave it a 15 out of 20 in physics, a 13 out of 15 in sounds, a 9.5 out of 10 in models, a 9 out of 10 in cockpit, 9 out of 10 in fun factor, 8 out of 10 in immersive, 8 out of 10 in force feedback, 3.5 out of 5 in damage, 5 out of 5 in skins, and 4 out of 5 for the default set, giving it an 84 out of 100. So overall, that gives it a pretty good score. I mean, pretty fair
84?
against its competition.
Yeah.
Going over a couple of these scores that are pretty big. I mean, sounds 13 out of 15. I mean, we talked about the gear whine in all the cars, but in this car it sounded
yeah, and
right.
I was playing with that gear whine, and it's appropriate. It's like speed appropriate, and if you goose the throttle, it whines different than if you like easily accelerate. It's very cool. Yeah.
The other thing for me is the car models. It got a 9.5 out of 10, which is outstanding. I mean, right there with the best of them. And I mean, it's a beautiful car shape. Their rendition looks identical to the photos that we were pulling.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely the same.
And then in physics, it got a 15 out of 20. I think the car drove better than some of the lower horsepowered cars in Shift 2.
Oh, definitely, yeah. When it gets down into this race car thing, it's properly stiff and it's low to the ground, and you can really feel the raciness of the car.
And probably a little too sticky, otherwise
A
it would
little
have
too
done
sticky, yeah.
real well.
Absolutely, yeah. It has a little bit of unrealistic stick, but good. I mean, feels good.
And then probably the last thing to really focus on would be force feedback, which again, this going with the physics, it had a real good turn-in feel, a lot of grip. You could definitely tell what the car was doing.
Oh yeah, the force feedback's great. I find in Shift 2 Unleashed, the stiffer the car is, the lower it is to the ground, the better that feel gets.
I completely agree. So that about does it. We normally are trying to do a contest with Top Sim cars, but I think last time we did it, we kind of confused the world and made it seem like you had to really post a time and to be competitive. That's not the case. All you have to do is go to our forum, go to Top Sim Cars, and you can get involved in the Tamiya Top Sim Car Contest. We're giving away that beautiful Subaru.
Oh, so nice.
And I want to build that model myself.
Yeah, can I enter?
Yeah, all you have to do, go there, post, I want to win that Subaru. That'll be good enough to get you entered to win. And unfortunately, that's only available to US residents.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for Top Sim Car today. Tommy, thank you for joining me.
Hey, thanks a lot.
All right, it was fun. And get out there and drive that beautiful Ford GT.
So cool.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing. Puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number one on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
Next up, we're going to give you guys some wheel settings for Shift 2 Unleashed. And for those of you out there that are playing it on the PC, we're going to tell you which mods are available and where you can get them.
Here's how we have some of our wheels set up on both the PC and the Xbox 360. Starting with Sean's settings on the PC with a G27. Before you launch the game, go into the Logitech Profiler, and this is how he has things set up. Force feedback is set to 107%. Then for spring and damper, he has them set to 1%. Center spring is at 2%. And then make sure your rotation is set at 900 degrees. Otherwise, Shift 2 sets your rotation in a percentage versus allowing you to adjust the degrees of rotation. Then once in game, this is how he has things configured on the Advanced tab. First for force feedback strength, 100. Steering dead zone, 0. Steering sensitivity, 100. Throttle dead zone, 0. Throttle sensitivity, 20. Brake dead zone, 0. Brake sensitivity, 20. Clutch dead zone, 6. Clutch sensitivity 50, speed sensitivity 85, speed sensitivity drift 60, steering lock is at 360, steering lock drift is at 300. So there's how we have things on the PC. Now this is how Darren has his wheels set up on the Xbox 360. For starter, there's a bug on the Xbox 360 where you need to boot the console up first before you boot up the wheel. In this case, we're using the Fanatec Porsche GT2 wheel. If you boot the console up with the wheel, you're limited to 270 degrees of rotation, and the Xbox thinks you're using the Microsoft wheel. Now make sure your wheel is set to 900 degrees of rotation before booting it into Xbox mode. That way you can take advantage of the full range of rotation the game has to offer. And this is how Darren has the GT2 set up. Force feedback 100, shock 100, drift 2, ABS off, linearity 0, dead zone 0. Spring -3, damper -3. Then once in game, this is how we have things configured on the Advanced tab. Press the gas pedal twice to get to the Adjust Controls tab, then hit the right paddle shifter to go to the Advanced settings. Starting with force feedback strength 100, steering dead zone 0, steering sensitivity 50, throttle dead zone 0, throttle sensitivity 20, brake dead zone 0, brake sensitivity 20, clutch dead zone 0, clutch sensitivity 100, speed sensitivity 0, speed sensitivity drift 60, steering lock 540, and steering lock drift equals 540. Those are some of our settings. To see more, head to our Shift 2 page at our website to see how we have our GT3 RS set up on the PS3. Hope that helps you get things set up on your configuration.
One of the advantages of playing multi-platform games on the PC version is that it can sometimes mean mods coming our way. Despite Shift 2 having just been released, there are already some mods out for it. At Virtual R, you will find a couple of related posts with mods for trackside object removal, crowd remover, as well as some templates for the GT cars. At No Grip Racing, there are already a handful of mods in the download section. There is a cool steering wheel remover mod, as well as various different camera view changing mods to choose from. There will be more mods coming over time, but I would check in with Virtual R and No Grip Racing as time goes on.
Recently, as you guys may have noticed, we've been previewing games before we actually review them. We'll be doing the same for Shift 2 Unleashed, and once a patch is released, which it will be in the future, we'll go ahead and download it and do a full-on review and put it on our Shabami. In the meantime, the guys are going to go ahead and give you their first thoughts on this title, but before they do, this quick commercial break.
Tamiya's extensive lineup of radio-controlled vehicles provides hobbyists with the joy of running exact replicas of their favorite car, tank, or off-road vehicle. Another attraction of these vehicles is their use of high-grade materials, such as nylon resin, carbon fiber, and polycarbonate. With precise mechanical systems, the maintenance and adjustment of the various components, as well as performance upgrading with optional parts, allows for truly competitive racing. For more information about Tamiya, visit us at www.tamiyausa.com.
So here we are for Shift 2 Unleashed, not to be confused with World or Hot Pursuit. And you know, Need for Speed goes all the way back to '94, like Jessica mentioned. And for me, this is a very important series, Dynasty.
Oh yeah, we've both been playing it since then.
The very beginning, and I mean, you had the original Hot Pursuit, the Porsche Unleashed. I mean, the game goes on and on with different variations. But now we're sort of at a point where they have 3 different variations going simultaneous.
Yeah, that are very specific.
You've got the World, which is MMO type.
Yeah, the social interaction.
Yeah. You've got the Hot Pursuit, which is sort of the cops and robbers.
Yeah, the true arcade game.
And then the Shift series, which is now Shift 2 Unleashed, which they definitely tout as the racer version.
Absolutely.
And they actually want you to think of this as being a hardcore sim to an extent.
Yeah, they really do.
Now, the game is the same on all 3 platforms.
Yeah, absolutely the same. The only thing that's different is the buttons.
The buttons and some of the peripherals that may or may not work, and how well the graphics perform.
Correct.
But underneath it, it's the exact same game. And all 3 versions have basically the same career mode and allow for 12 players online.
Yeah, that's great.
So now a little bit about the game before we get to how it played for us. You've got over 100 cars.
Yeah, and awesome cars too. They're all cars that make you go, oh, awesome. You know, they really, there's no vits.
Yeah, there is. I mean, they start you off at the bottom and work their way progressively higher, but like you said, no vits or DRS or cars that you just wouldn't want to drive. And then all of the cars, even no matter how lowly they are, you can work on them, tune them, even race modify. I mean, all the way down to the GTI, which is a pretty pathetic car. But
yeah, the old school Golf, the VW.
but I do love it.
Yeah.
You've got over 36 venues. So some fantasy, some real life.
And so many variations of each.
Yeah,
oh,
so
man.
I mean there's endless amounts of racing within the game. The other thing for me is the different types of racing. So you've got the eliminator mode, the hot lap mode, you've got time attack mode, you've got drifting, you've got racing. There are a lot of different variations and a lot of different levels to get into, and I mean it's very deep in that way. And within those races, you also have individual little challenges and things that kind of make it more fun, but that's getting into gameplay.
Yeah.
And before we get to that, you know, we're kind of just getting going with these games. And a lot of these games have so much depth, it's hard for us to overnight play it to the level that we're ready to review it.
Definitely.
So this is, again, one of these previews. You know, I'm at level 14 and getting pretty far along, but I mean, I'm
moving.
far from GT1.
Yeah, well, so am I.
And we're also waiting on a patch that's going to solve some issues.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's some graphical bugs, obviously the wheel setting bugs that we mentioned earlier, and things like that. So we'll be waiting for all of that and for us to level up to be able to fully review it.
Yeah, we want to get to GT1 before you tell you guys how it really is. I mean, that's the full experience.
But you got in there. You
Yeah.
got pretty deep. What are your first thoughts coming right at this game?
Gosh, you know what? It's really fun. It sucks you into the game. It gets you interested. It gets you having fun, and I miss that a lot in some of the harder core sims where you don't have like a story mode or all this music or presentation, flying at you.
Okay, we're on a legendary track today. You've got a lot to live up to. The hairpin at turn 4 is your best spot for passing. Take every chance.
The physics, I like them. I think I'd probably prefer Gran Turismo's physics, but they're very close, very close. I know you prefer Shift's physics to Gran Turismo's.
Yeah, this is something, I mean, I think that each have their own unique features, and there's definitely a Gran Turismo physics. It's recognizable, and the same for Forza. And Shift 2 is right on par with those. I prefer them, but I mean, I could see it sort of goes like that.
Yeah, but it's great. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun.
You said something about the intensity, the way it brings it in.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I like things that excite me when you're going through the career mode and it's unlocking new levels, and you get these explosions and flashy sounds and things like that.
I'm Chris Rado, U.S. Time Attack champion, professional speed demon, and lover of all things fast.
And like you said, harder core sims, you just don't get that. It's about the competition more than the presentation.
It is, yeah.
How did you feel about the competition itself? I mean, maybe the AI.
Gosh, I would say maybe a step up from Gran Turismo. They were doing a good job of racing their line and competing against each other. Sometimes they even got in incidents, but gosh, heaven help you if you are in their way. They tend to, if you're in the way, there you go.
They're going to go right through you?
Yeah, I've been taken out a couple of times.
Now let's talk about graphics and sounds, which I think is big focus of Need for Speed Shift.
Definitely. It's where it shines, really.
For me, I played mostly on the PC version, and I found the graphics were just mind-blowing. I mean, we're talking the environmental effects, but I have a really good computer.
That's the thing.
And I am reading on the forums of people having problems with the graphics. Lower level computers, you're not going to see the game in the same level. And on the Xbox and PS3, we're noticing it's just not performing at the same level.
No, and it gets a little framey at times. But yeah, I mean, phenomenal in the damage and the stuff that you can do to the car.
Yeah.
Great, really great.
Now what about the sounds?
Scare the crap out of me. If you crash a car head on into a wall, it sounds like you crashed. Darren was playing a little while ago, crashed a car, and it scared. Like I jumped and looked at. I was like, oh, someone's. No, it's a game. It sounds gnarly.
Yeah, I like a lot of those environmental sounds. The car sounds are maybe not the most authentic, but there's a nice variety in sounds so that you know you're in different cars.
Yeah,
each time.
absolutely. If you're driving a little, front-wheel drive something with a tiny little engine, it sounds like it. Little bees in a coffee can type sound.
We kind of mentioned it in the beginning here, the cars and the tracks.
Yeah.
The modeling, I think, is some of the best.
Yeah, of cars?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the damage that they get, I think, is really visually amazing, too. I mean, panels falling off, shattering windshields. The tracks, I think, are also nice, but they are not dead on. I mean, Willow Springs is
Willow Springs, well, yeah, Willow is one of our local tracks, so we're particularly picky, and that, I think, is one of the tracks that we've always wanted to see in a sim somewhere, just because it's our local thing. But yeah, it's silly. It's got tents everywhere.
It got a facelift, like F1 came in for the day.
That's right, yeah.
Now, we're trying not to get too much in detail, but we did kind of glaze over physics, and I think that's something people really are going to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you think the drivability of the car was?
Oh, good. You can definitely get used to it and drive the car and race the car and put it where you want to put it, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was, comparing it to upper level sims, I think it was a little simplified. So that moment of threshold braking, I could lock them up and release them and gather the car back very easily.
Yes.
And the same thing goes for the oversteer situations. But ultimately, I felt that it was giving me very good transfer, and it was giving me really good feeling in the wheel, which kind of takes us to force feedback as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you think about the force feedback?
Force feedback, good, generally. Rumble strip, good rumble strip feel. Crossing over into physics, you do get lost in the gravel traps. It'll yank the wheel to one side, and it'll slow the car right down. But generally good. You lose a little of the feel of maybe the grip You know what I mean?
Right.
Like being on grip, and when you cross that line, you lose that feel. There's none of that really there, but all the other environmental stuff.
And I remember you talking about it feeling like it had a 2-foot sidewall
Yes.
that you had to get over first.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of weight transfer in cars. Like you'll
Yeah.
turn the wheel and it's like, and then it doesn't really turn, and then you have to turn a little more, and then it'll turn the car.
Yeah,
But,
I agree with you. All right, well, presentation, I think, is what this game is all about.
Yeah.
We talked about the career mode. We talked about all the flashy things. I mean, for me, this game sucked me in. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you have challenges being thrown through auto log. So I mean, I was going to career mode today, and it showed that Darren had done better than me at Suzuka. And before I went on to my career, I had to go try to beat Darren at Suzuka, which I didn't do because we had to come down and film. But that's the next thing I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
All right, last but not least, it comes to multiplayer. We got a chance to do some multiplayer.
We did. We were head to head.
And against those out there in the world who joined us. I liked it a bit. You're restricted to the 12 players. I did find that it was a little restrictive in setting up the room.
Yeah, kind of hard to arrange there. And
Yeah, and we were outclassed even though I thought I had made the settings so that we'd be in the same class.
Yeah.
For me, I don't think multiplayer is the main focus of Need for Speed.
No, it's a nice feature.
It
but-
is, and some good racing can be done. But with a career mode as strong as it has, that's definitely where the focus seems to be. So for those of you who have driven Shift, I think there's a lot of new content, some upgraded graphics and physics, a lot of things that are going to make it worth purchasing this version. And for those of you who've never tried the series, I mean, there's a lot of game here, there's a lot of fun to be had, and I think you'll enjoy it. And you can look forward to our full review coming as soon as we've leveled up and maybe they've fixed a few issues.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll about do it for us. I have a quick shout out to make. If you want some cool Gearhead or Petrolhead t-shirts like the one I'm wearing, head on over to enthusiastapparel.com. They've got a lot of cool stuff.
Hope you guys have enjoyed our first look at Shift 2 Unleashed. We were following this title around for quite some time, so we'll be doing a full-on review post-patch. So make sure you stay tuned with the show and look for that in the near future. Make sure you also head on over to our website. We have Tamiya contests going on over there, and you must register as a member with our site in order to participate in those contests and to be a member of our forums. So head on over InsideSimRacing.tv. On behalf of all of the Inside Sim Racing crew, I'm Jessica Lopez. Checker flag is out, and so am I. Promotional consideration provided by iRacing.com, the ultimate place to race online. The world's finest model manufacturer and leader in RC cars, trucks, and tanks. Go to TamiyaUSA.com. And GamePod, the choice of champions. Go to gamepod.co.uk.